as bad as the Supreme Court is, and the fact that there isn't any difference between the two parties at the top levels on average, the Supreme Court conservative justices did rule the Second Amendment's an individual right, and they have been ruling better on property rights and things than the Democratic appointed ones. You see, the Democrats are like going 100 miles an hour off the edge of the cliff towards tyranny and packaging as liberal and loving, and the Republicans are going about 80 miles an hour over the cliff. But I've really been analyzing things, and I can see how on the surface I was a Republican 18 years ago. Because on the surface, it's like, oh, they're better. But that's the loyal opposition. But I think the system knows that if they would have said there's no individual right, people aren't turning their guns in. Just like it was the line in the sand in 1776. The British were coming in and taking people's private property. They were raping people's wives. They were engaged in all sorts of corruption, and folks were putting up with it. But when they came to take the guns, it's just like, you know what, that's it. Come and take it. Barrel end first. For 20-plus years, colonists and people from the United States after that were coming into Mexico. That was Oklahoma, Texas, New Mexico, and other areas. And they were getting land grants because they were allowed to own guns. And then as soon as Santa Anna took over and set up a dictatorship and said, I'm taking everybody's guns all over Mexico, there were uprisings all over Mexico. Guatemala had an uprising and broke off over gun confiscation. It wasn't just up here. You're not taught that in the history books. There were uprisings in central Mexico. He put those down. There were uprisings in what was central Mexico. It's northern Mexico today. Everything turns into a history lesson because history is everything. Those that don't know it are doomed to repeat it. Those that know it have the compass of the future and the present. Humans act the same over and over again. And they told my ancestors, Santa Anna, said, you're going to turn all your guns in. And my ancestors said, no. Come and take the guns. And they did come. And the war started. And I know the system understands that. They've done the psychological actuaries. They know. They know that's what it is. So the Supreme Court, because I'll guarantee you watching them, if they would have known people would have gone along with a gun ban, a restriction, they would have pulled the trigger. Pun intended. But they can't do it because the system knows that's the line in the sand. And 5 million guns are being sold on average every month. Previous records were 1.5 million. You see that exponential, parabolic armament curve, and the surveys are out there. People say, I don't trust the government. I don't trust the president. I'm getting ready to defend myself. The American people are at DEFCON 2. And the New World Order bankers sitting offshore who make 40-to-1 bets and lose and steal private people's money and are so above the law they've gotten away with it. They want to march the military and the police up against the American people. Do you have any idea what the American people will do compared to the Afghans or the Iraqis or any of these folks? I mean, do you have any idea that the American people you're going to be fighting are the 30 million veterans who do not care about dying one bit? The only thing holding back the American people is they don't want to kill police. The average American is smart and is like, well, what does it do if I just go out and start popping police? What does it do if I just go open fire on a Capitol? That's why all the elite, the bankers, are all basically resigning, 90+% of them, and all buying armored redoubts in rural areas of the world. Because they know. They know. The only so I'm trying to stop an armed revolt here, but I'm telling you, it's close. It's very close. We'll be right back. Okay, I want to explain something here to everybody of what's happening. The globalists play nations, groups, races, religions off against each other in a global scientific system that they call the New World Order. It's really just the model of the British Empire, the great game, divide and conquer on a wider scale. They are establishing global governance, global taxation, global carbon taxes. But the only way these offshore megabanks can do that is by getting the nation states to accept their fiat currency. These 6 megabanks literally issue the currency. We pay them to have money, when money is only supposed to be a symbol of exchange of goods, so you're not just having to go through barter, but you can have the marketplace work better. But when money itself becomes the energy source, it allows these elites to basically have a spinning wheel that produces gold. And it's not going to be long until they take over the society. It's so simple. A bunch of Ken Lay, Bernie Madoff types literally run things. That's what Corzine is, just even bigger. That's what the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, George Soros, it's all coming out in court. The Rothschilds sued a major newspaper saying, we're not kingpins, we don't have front companies, we're not controlling Russian oligarchs. And it all came out in court, even though they had the power. The judge didn't go along with the globalist control. Boy, I wonder what they're going to do to him. And said, you lied to me, Rothschilds. This is all true. And now a judge, twice in a row, 2 different federal judges, have said the Hutaree thing is all made up. Release this so-called group that was going to wage war against the government. Same deal again. I told you it was French intelligence 2 days into it with the French shooting, because it had all the earmarks. It's always the same. If I'm out by the lake and see a snake swimming along, how do I know it's a snake? I've seen snakes in the water 100 times or more. Daily Mail, Michigan Militia are cleared of plotting to overthrow government despite massive undercover FBI operation. Judge rules that offensive remarks did not amount to a conspiracy against the government. Clears the group of plotting to kill a police officer. Only a few gun charges remain against militia leader and his son. But they always do the gun charges. This happened with the Branch Davidians. They were found not guilty of the conspiracy to kill federal agents, all of it. But then they found them guilty of using guns in the commission of a crime, even though they were found not guilty of the crime. And the Supreme Court ordered that the Branch Davidians released. The Justice Department didn't do it for 6 years. They don't care. Just like Obama launches wars and says he doesn't need U.S. approval, congressional approval, he's got the UN. That's so illegal. That's so treasonous, the word treason doesn't cover it. It's just beyond treason. That's why I pull my hair out on air. Because it's so ridiculously over the top. Like Corzine caught perjuring. Of course he ordered the $2 billion transferred. Of course he stole it. Of course he's been caught. Months ago, the head of the CME group over it all, was in the meetings, said Corzine ordered it. He's been caught now. The memos are public. He ordered it. He's not clapped in irons. Because the Justice Department is a bunch of crooks that ship guns into Mexico to blame the Second Amendment. They're a bunch of criminals. Don't you get it? We're all in danger. All right, I'm already digressing. Listen. A couple years ago, out of all the hundreds of good militia groups out there, it's part of the Constitution. I support them. Any militia groups that attack me for saying this, you have to look at them for being infiltrated and run by feds. Because when I explain to militias how to not get infiltrated, how to not get set up, I always get attacked with a straw man that I'm attacking the institution of the Republic's militia based on the Swiss or Dutch model that I'm totally for, totally support. Anytime I talk about the militia, I get attacked by militias, and it turns out those militias are infiltrated or run by feds. A year before Hutaree was set up, I watched video of members of it dressed up like clowns and saying clownish things, and I said, that is directly out of central casting. That is federally produced, like Adam Gadon, the grandson of the head of the ADL, being the leader of Al-Qaeda, uploading the video in the same resolution as the Al-Qaeda bug with the Pentagon bug, Intel Center bug. I said, that's a staged government operative. I told you the U.S.-born, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, Amr al-Awlaki, meaning the Pentagon. I mean, I told you that before it was in the news that he worked for the Pentagon. I know scripted bad actors when I see them. I know the MO. The CIA is good at hiring good directors to make propaganda films, but they're not good at producing them themselves. It looks like a high school play. And I saw this, and out of hundreds, and well, now it's thousands of militias, I said, that Hutaree is infiltrated and is going to get set up. And then, of course, I got attacked because I hit a little close to the bone, didn't I? This type of precision is not appreciated, is it? And, of course, it's not really precision. It's like watching Laurel and Hardy. I guess that's, compared to the general public, though, that is precision, being able to find my nose. I mean, it's as plain as the nose on your face. 1 + 1 = 2. I'm a genius. I guess in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. They set him up. And I said, I'll guarantee you, of the dozen or so that have been arrested, multiple members, probably the leader or the number 2, are feds. And they'll have to drop part of the case up front to get some of them out, but then try to go after some they can trick into confessing to something they haven't done. Boom, that starts. Because I've watched it hundreds of times. Now, I'm here warning militias. If you're meeting secret and somebody's saying, let's get ready to fight the government and let's build bombs to test, that's a Fed. 99% of the time, getting ready to send you to the pen and to put it on the news that you were planning to kill people for propaganda to make police think everybody that's for the Second Amendment's their enemy. I said, why are you wearing Southeast Asian camo from the 1960s and going around calling yourself a general or an admiral because you own a bass boat? Why don't you go wear a suit and tie and declare yourself part of the civil defense militia of the Second Amendment and try to organize block captains and be mainstream and be sharp and have, that's what they're scared of. That's why they created fake militias, to act clowny on the news so that real military and police and others don't want to join it. They're absolutely scared of you doing a militia right. And when I talk about this, folks, I'll be attacked by dozens of groups. And that's when you know, oh, you're a federal operative? Okay. Because, you know, they don't want the actual blueprint they're scared of here. This is like stake in the heart of the vampires you're hearing right now. And then, yeah, if you're doing some training, then it's got to be camo specific for the area you're in instead of acting like clowns. You know, let yourself be a military history and shooting club. Things like that. Things that, the Appleseed Project, getting everybody into the Second Amendment. Making it a big tent, making it fun, not hiding, creeping around. The good guys aren't hiding and creeping around. The good guys are also running for sheriff to be the real leader of the county militia. The real leaders aren't acting like your secret agents hiding out. And it's like kids playing Batman and Robin, because that's what most militias do, because that's the meme that the globalist operatives put out first and through TV, which you then take on and believe is the model. So I told you they would shut down Hutaree. I told you that it was completely fake, and then they released the tapes. Driving to a machine gun shootout event, contest. The Fed is prodding them about, well, what do they start arresting people? What do they do all this? Well, we'll have to defend ourselves and fight the New World Order. You know, the leader of it, who was a good guy. The evidence shows. And I mean, how many guests do we have on about, I hope it doesn't have to go to physical like our forebears? Sheriff Mack, Ron Paul, the list goes on and on. I mean, anyone having a real discussion, what do you think the American people are buying 5 million guns a month for? The national surveys say. They're not getting drug off to the FEMA Center. They're not going to the Superdome. They're not taking inoculations. It ain't happening. So don't stick your hand in that badger hole. We're fighting to not get a civil war going while the scumbag bankers sit offshore. How about we just expose the bankers and start arresting them, which is beginning. That's why they're all resigning, literally 90+% the last 6 months, and running to Australia, New Zealand, Cook Islands, armored redoubts in the Virgin Islands. I mean, they're building barbed wire electrified fences with 10-man security teams there. This is on the news. Why do you think they're running to Paraguay? The Bushes and others. The globalists have committed crimes that are so ridiculous, we've started to get the upper hand. People know there's a new world order. People are buying guns. They hate the UN. They hate carbon taxes. All their hoaxes are falling. You people can't believe, though, that we could win. They can't believe that America is about winning. That's why they jack our food and water with fluoride to dumb us down, because they're scared of us. They know we've got the fighting spirit. They know everybody that came here through adversity. They know. They're afraid of us. They're so scared you're going to go to the city council and the police chief and everybody else and sweep away the ADL, Southern Poverty Law Center, demonization of patriots. They know you've got the moral authority. They know you've got the strength. They know you've got the leadership. They know you've got the courage. They know you've got it all. So they're constantly trying to set up militias, always with the same narrative of they were training to kill cops. Nobody's training to kill cops. Everybody's hoping that the cops are smart enough to not march against the American people. Everybody's hoping that we can identify the real enemy together as Americans and come together and break this trance and break the New World Order's hold over us like Nineveh did and get a reprieve. I'm fighting in the info war. I'm making zero preparation for physical because I will sacrifice myself to this system. I'm ready to be destroyed. I'm ready to be tortured. I'm ready to be imprisoned. But I am an example and a light in the night to others, and that's my job. But don't say that Paul Revere didn't ride. All of you are Paul Reveres. Instead of just waiting and polishing your guns and waiting for somebody to come and you're going to kill the first person that comes, don't do that. Reach out to people now. Get involved now. Put 100 times the energy into the info war that you've put into preparations for physical war. And for heaven's sakes, police, if you don't research this info, you're insane. Because the globalists do have on the books a planned civil war where they're just going to let us kill each other for a couple of years. It's in the IMF World Bank documents. They've done it in third world countries. And then everybody will beg for martial law after that. Because of we do not need to go there. This republic can only fall from within. Heaven's sakes. So here it is. And I told you they'd set them up. I told you it would happen. I told you from the affidavits that were later released, they didn't do anything. They said, yeah, we may have to have physical, war with these criminals. I mean, I've said on air, nobody's given me a forced inoculation. Nobody's taken my kids. And I don't say that as some tough guy either. I just, as a man, have to tell you, I'm done negotiating with terrorists. I'm done. And you know what? The American people are done too. And the military is awakening at an explosive rate. But again, Hutaree acquitted in federal terrorism case, but they're going to go after him, same model, firearms offenses. The guns aren't illegal. They're going to say they're illegal because they were in the commission of crime, but they've been acquitted of the crime. Watch them do the same thing they did to the Davidians. All they did was engage in their free speech that's covered under the Declaration of Independence. Why did the Philadelphia Inquirer, why did the BBC 6 months ago say, should the Declaration of Independence be banned? Is the Declaration of Independence illegal? If you think I'm joking and just tuned in, just search that. You'll get major newspapers. And they said, maybe we should ban the Declaration of Independence. It says the people have a right. When a government becomes destructive of basic human rights, we have a right and a duty to throw it off. Of course the federal government wants to ban the founding document of the country. Because you got a right to defend yourself against a tyranny. Did people have a right to defend themselves against Stalin, Mao, Hitler, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro? You bet they do. And our own media is now attacking the Declaration of Independence because they're stinking traitor, usurper criminals. And anybody out there too stupid to not understand, now's the time to choose sides. Do you stand with George Washington and Patrick Henry? Do you stand with your ancestors and our veterans of the last 235 years? Do you stand with the Republic and common sense, or do you stand with John Corzine or George Soros, the New World Order? All this open scum who's openly trying to sell poison into the veins of this country. Choose! So, how do just a few thousand globalists manipulate 7 billion people? They do it through slick propaganda and manipulation, and they do it through the population believing what they're told on the surface. So, you need the police to think of camouflage-wearing, gun-owner rednecks as terrorists when they're the salt of the earth. What do? You infiltrate the groups, get them to say stupid things on the record, and you try to set them up and call it terrorism to roll out a new war against the American people. But every time the globalists do this, because they're disconnected from reality, all it does is wake more people up. So, I told you years ago they would set up Hutaree. I told you that it was a setup, that they weren't guilty, but they had been foolish. And I told you they would probably be a mistrial, or they would go after them on gun charges, right on all fronts, on record. And Rob Dew's digging up all the video clips of that for the Nightly News tonight, in case you missed me predicting all of that. Now, also what I predicted, and I want to tell people out there listening, you can learn to know all this stuff too. The globalists follow handbooks. Once you learn their tricks, you know the playbook. Sometimes they throw a curveball, but that's in the playbook too. Italian newspaper, the reported shooter of the Jewish children over in France was French intelligence asset. The Jerusalem Post also confirms that Mossad was ordered to let him into Israel, and he was basically French intelligence. No kidding. This guy's going back and forth to Afghanistan. This guy's being protected. His girlfriend said he was talking about violence. She went and warned the police. Nothing was done. But this guy can just run around everywhere he wants. The head of the 7/7 bombings, it came out even on Fox News. MI6, the underwear bomber, got on the plane by the government. Major Hassan, protected by military intelligence, 2 years. This all came out. It's the same story. And I told you, I said, they're going to end up blowing him up inside there. He's going to end up dying, just like in the Madrid bombings of 2003. That it came out in the Spanish news was staged. That was confirmed. That actually backfired because the Spanish are not that naive. Got to hand it to the folks in Spain. They didn't buy it, and it came out it was staged. They just killed some innocent patsy. Now it's come out, and this is in Associated Press, that someone else shot video of him doing the killings of the children. Of course, that's the intelligence ops, like the video of the first plane hitting the World Trade Center, and no one says who shot it. You'd think that person would be super famous, like Zabruder. No, you don't know who shot it. See, this is how they operate. And it's for Sarkozy's re-election and got him a big boost. Now it looks like he'll probably win. Dominique Strauss-Kahn got set up by French intelligence on record with a fake hooker that just came into his room as the cleaning lady. Totally made it up. We told you that was fake. This is what they're doing. And it's the same thing. They want law enforcement hating gun owners and conservatives and militias, so they stage events to demonize them. They want the French people at each other's throats, so they stage this, confirmed, all the earmarks. The point is that it's all about divide and conquer, so the bankers can sit back and manipulate us off against each other. Learn their moves. Please, 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 please listen to me. The only way this stuff works is when you're not conscious of it, when you're not aware of it. It's a tiny group. They're trying to get this grid built. Look how fast stuff's changing now. 10 years ago, would you have ever believed the TSA would be on the highways now and sticking their hands down your pants? Did you ever believe they'd be shooting up school kids in California without parental consent with vaccines? Did you ever think they'd be announcing global government, global taxes, global carbon taxes, shutting down power plants, doubling, tripling water prices, robbing everybody, militarizing police, CIA, threat fusion center, command bases illegally operating? Cancer rates 2,000-fold. Pediatric cancer, 10,000%. I mean, it's all crazy. I know, because the elite are crazy. Who would have thought Caligula would marry his horse and make it consulate of Rome and start dancing around saying he was the most beautiful person in the universe? Who would have thought Hitler would have thought he was God and had SS people at black castles worshiping him? Who would have thought Pol Pot would kill everybody who could write and had glasses, 30% of the country? I mean, who would have thought Kim Jong-il would be in a 7-story pleasure palace having Asian film stars kidnapped so he could rape them to death in dungeons? I mean, who would have thought any of this? But it's happening. It's real. It's here. And I just want my freedom. I never get sick of just good old-fashioned freedom, good old-fashioned life. I'm just satisfied with being normal. And I don't want a bunch of degenerate, crazy people running my life.